If you were lucky enough to catch the Bobby Womack concerts last year, that'll be familiar to you. Bring back memories of some great concerts, hey? Breezing George Benson, written by Bobby Womack. And for Bobby Womack, here is where it almost began. It's all over now, Bobby Womack and his brothers. They were called the Valentinos then. And I must ask you, Bobby, you wrote It's All Over Now when you were 16. Did you have Chuck Berry in mind when you wrote it?
I probably did, because that's what was happening then. And I was listening to his riffs, you know, and I just felt that that's what I wanted to do.
Because you were singing in church, so you were doing your standard American soul man apprenticeship
but
in
this
church.
Right here was more, I think, it was more rock and roll, the way we cut that song, you know, and the way we went about it. But Chuck Berry and Fats Domino, people like that were really strong on the radio.
This is old Jumpin' George saying you can call it rhythm and blues or rock and roll, but here is one that's a hit under any name. Chuck Berry's Maybelline.
Maybelline, why can't you be true? Oh, Maybelline, why can't you be true? You done started up.
Is that who you grew up with, Fats Domino?
Yeah, Chuck Berry, Elvis Presley.
They were your heroes?
And even the Beatles. Those were people that, well, at that time, I didn't take music serious then because I was singing gospel. I'm talking about at a younger age. So I was singing gospel, and just to listen to popular music, my father didn't like that, you know, and it wasn't allowed in the house. So we had to cut the radio on, hear something, and then when he hear him come and cut it back off and sit there and sing a gospel song. You know, he was a real strict man, but I think that he was protecting us. You know, and he knew that we were in an environment that the only thing that we could look up to and admire was the hustler that hung in the neighborhood. The guy with the Cadillac, the guy with the diamond rings, the guy with all the women. Because that's all we could see that looked like prosperous. You see what I'm saying? So he wanted us to sing gospel, and like people like Sam Cooke and gospel singers that in those days had a thing about once you give yourself to God and singing his music, if you did anything else, something bad would happen, you know. And that was just a theory that we all, I mean, I just came up thinking it because it was already there. It was laid for me, and that was the thing, so everybody followed that. So one day Sam says, I'm gonna go and sing some other music, because we would travel thousands of miles to make $200, and then we'd split it between everybody, and then chip in and pay the gas. So actually you didn't make any money, and staying in a hotel was unheard of. You know, everybody split up, and different sisters of the church would take people in. And I remember traveling with groups like the Blind Boys, Pilgrim Travel, Swan, Silvertones. I was the Blind Boys guitar player when I was 13.
But did you know you could sing?
Yeah, when I listened to a lot of other people, I thought I was better. I thought I was better.
How good did you think you were?
Everywhere I would ever sing as a child, people would react. It's like the girl that sung with me that I brought from Cleveland. I used to sing with her dad. I didn't even know it when Altrina Grayson that sung with me Friday night. Well, they react over her. The way they reacted over her, she's an unknown. But it has nothing to do with name. It's about what you can deliver. She can sing.
I want to ask you some more about her a bit later, but singing with the Valentinos, and you had your first hit around that time, so you had your first taste of success. But really, apart from the influence of a strict dad, it was Sam Cooke.
Yeah. It was Sam Cooke that we idolized, because Sam Cooke at the time, gospel was very strict. There was no dancing. There was no extra instruments allowed. You know, you had to do everything very conservative, very conservative. You know, and that's just the way they carried it. Now, I knew someone who got a lot of the gospel guys would slip and drink, and then they would drink Listerine before they went to church and be up there chewing gum and singing, trying to, you know, play it off. But Sam came into gospel young guy. He was like the Elvis Presley gospel. He turned gospel around. He started bringing young people to the church, and it became a big thing because they could draw 600 to 700, maybe 1,000 people. That was unheard of, gospel singers drawing like that. And he was like Pretty Boy Floyd. He would come on stage and he would do things that nobody else would do. Comb his hair white, sing, you know, he was always primping. And the people loved it because it was more of a show. So they were saying they were going to be bringing Sam to Cleveland, which is our hometown. This was the first time I ever saw Sam. And before that, Sam had some heavy shoes to fill because he was coming after a guy named R.H. Harris, who was the lead singer for the Soul Stirrers. And Sam was like the baby to him. And Sam was trying to sing like him, his best. He idolized this guy. This guy, he said, this guy taught me how to sing. So Harris could not, he had to leave the Soul Stirrers because he traveled from city to city. He had so many women pregnant, he could never go on stage and perform because the cops would take him away. So they just said, well, we can't. Harris has gotten to a point that he couldn't work nowhere but his hometown.
Mr. Harris had to retire.
He had to retire. So he put Sam in his place. But you know, when you're trying to sing like somebody else, everybody's voice is different. Sometimes you accidentally create your own style. You know what I mean? You'd be thinking you sounded like the other guy, and they say, you know, this guy is really different.
The strange thing was that when you went to Atlantic, one of the problems you had there was Jerry Wexler said you sound too Sam Cookish. Hence, Wilson Pickett was doing most of your songs.
Yeah. You know, see, people only relate to what they have seen you do. They know me. I was known as a guitarist. I played a lot of sessions. So they figured that if the guy can sing that good, why was he playing for Sam? Because it wasn't time for me to do what I had to do.
Apart from being a great singer, what else was it about Sam Cooke? Was it that you could see an escape from the strictness of the church and you could see yourself being able to be a performer? Was it just his voice, or what was it about him?
He had a spiritual vibe that if he walked in the room, it was real special.
Darling, you send me, I know you send me.
Robbie Vincent and the Sound of Sunday Night tours to Bobby Womack. I can understand it, Bobby Womack. And before that, of course, you send me Sam Cooke.
The Robbie Vincent show, that's where the soul sounded.
What sort of effect did his death have in 1964 on you? Headline news.
Took a lot out of me.
I mean, I know it had a dramatic effect on you, and I know you're often...
It had a very dramatic effect. Had a deep effect on me. I didn't have time to be sad. It's because I was going to take care of his family. And I married his wife to take care of his family because I saw a lot of people that had helped him make the money. Before he was in his grave, they were taking everything. They were just running, trying to get their, you know. And nobody was thinking, and I said, well, maybe these guys are just older. I mean, on down to the band. Because like it was like, I was thinking that everybody idolized him like I did. So I said, golly. And one guy was saying, oh, man, ain't that a drag? This guy had to up and die. He told me he was going to get me a gas station. You know, whew, man, you know. I mean, like that. So I was thinking like, oh, man, I don't want to be a star and have guys around me like that.
You wanted to shoot the vultures.
Yeah, I really did. So I did something out of, I don't know what you call it, just out of trying to make her cry. And I married his wife, and I told her, I said, look, I know where this is at. This guy owes. He owes. This person is doing this. I know. And she didn't believe me until a lot of things happened. And I said, look, I'll stay with you for 5 years and get it. Because when I was going to do it, but I wasn't going to marry. So I didn't care what people thought. So they said, well, he's married. He married her because he's trying to get money, too. So they were coming to me like, look, you got the money. I mean, let's let everybody have a piece. I said, no, I ain't here for that. So I stopped a lot of things, and I was ostracized, like, from the business, and it was, like, put out that I was a bad guy. So everywhere I went to try to get my records played, they wouldn't play them. They said, hey, anybody do that when you did, you're a bad guy. So I said, well, the only way, and they forgot all about it, that I ever sung, because I had played with him. I had a couple of hit records, Looking for Love, It's All Over Now. Then I had played for him all those years. So they said, now you're going to try to be the man. So, I had to deal with that. And his family did not understand it. I could understand him not understanding it. And in later years, we became very close. I think when my brother Harry got killed, it brought us together as a family again. And I say, man, if it took that, we should never separate. Because it took me 7 years to recuperate, to get back into business behind that.
We're jumping ahead a little bit. Just
I'm a jumper. You have to break me back. You say, back up.
Jump it back. But did the majority of your family disapprove of you marrying and taking on the role of fending off the vultures that you saw around?
No, it was really it was strange to them. But my brother says, "Hey, do it. I think you should do it." First thing, one of the things I did is Ray Charles came to me, and he says, "Hey, I know you're going through a lot, and I know people have been very nasty to you." He said, "Why don't you come on the road and play guitar for me? Give you something to do." He said, "Don't get in a rut where you just sit back because they won't let you work. So you are living off of your wife because that's the only income." He said, "So let's go on the road." So I said, "That'd be great." And I don't know. He said, "Okay, I'll pay you $250 a week." It was great. So, I'd go out on the road. I was working with him. And he said, "Why don't you do a couple of songs in the show?" It's like on his songs. He would just say, "Ladies and gentlemen, Bobby Womack." And most of the times I was very nervous because I was thinking that maybe a rock would come from, out of nowhere. And the people started applauding, He did it, and another guy that I said, well, if the people acting like that, I wonder what it's going to be when I run into Jackie Wilson, So when I ran into Jackie Wilson, he was beautiful. He said, "I'm glad I take my hat off to you." And he was like my elder, So he was like, I went to his show, sitting in the audience. And I used to get so sick and tired of people trying to embarrass me. They used to say, "Ladies and gentlemen, the guy that married Sam Cooke's wife, Bobby Womack." I didn't want to be introduced like that. I say, "Oh, I got to turn this around." But Jackie Wilson congratulated us and he, brought us up to the hotel. It was real nice. He just says, "Hey, man, I'm happy. I would rather for it to be you." He said, "You're too naive to be wrong. And if you're wrong, you're right." He said, he said, "Somebody else, no." He said, "You don't smoke, you don't drink." He said, you're still a kid."
Had it ever occurred to you that scriptwriters spend hours over pieces of paper trying to write a story like your story because it's full of everything, absolutely everything? Had it ever occurred to you that you're a walking patent place or a walking dynasty?
I think so. I've always wanted to write about a lot of the inner feeling of what I went through, because it was a very vicious thing, and after I got into it, I'd seen how cruel people were about. They loved him, so they just no way I would compare this guy with Sam Cooke. He was this guitar player.